And now let's go to a semi-parametric band, okay? And for this, I'm going to go away to a different plugin. And here I'm going to pull up the Vintage Console EQ, which is another plugin, EQ plugin that comes built in natively in Logic Pro. And this is modeled after a Neve 1073 EQ. And I want to pause for just a second and go off on a little tangent about this, because this is one of the most legendary and most widely used EQs in music production because of its classic vintage sound. The story is that Rupert Neve is a very famous, legendary products electrical engineer, and he invented this A88 console back in the 70s, and he's made groundbreaking advancements in compressors as well, consoles, EQs. But in this EQ in the 70s that he made, the A88, he invented this EQ module called the 1073. Now this is the whole original console right here, but right here in this section you can see the EQ section right here. And this is the 1073 EQ module that he made. And now they've you can still find original 1073 EQ modules that came from those legendary consoles in like a rack mount format. Okay, and here they've racked 8 of them. And this would be insanely expensive to purchase a rack like this or a console. And the beauty is that now they're available in lots of amazing plug-in emulations. And Logic has done that by creating their Vintage Console EQ, which is emulating the sound and control and form and function of the Neve 1073 EQ. So if we look at this, we see some similarities from what we saw in the channel EQ. We see parameters that are on and off. So we'll turn these off. We haven't talked about those yet, but here we are with a parametric band. So if we go back to the channel EQ, here's our parametric bands that we were just looking at. All right. Now if we go to the console EQ, here's our parametric band. Now this is semi-parametric. And the reason why it's called semi-parametric is because we have boost or cut. Notice we don't have any graphical representation like the channel EQ. So what we're seeing here is this is an 8 dB boost. Okay, maximum is 20 dB, and maximum attenuation or maximum cut is 20 dB. So we have somewhere between 0 and 20 boost or cut. Then we have frequency selection. Now the original 1073s, okay, had sometimes notched where you had selectable frequencies. On this plugin, we have the ability to go, pretty much anywhere we want between 0.36 kilohertz. Now you may wonder what that is, 0.36 kilohertz. It's actually 360 hertz. So it does not go down past 360 hertz. And if we boost it, it goes up to 7.2 kilohertz. So 7,200 hertz, or 7.2 kilohertz. So since we don't have a graphical representation of this, plus or minus 20, and from 7.2 to 360 hertz, if we were to go back to this and look at that, okay, we don't have Q control, so let's just leave this right here. So what we have is the ability to go plus 20, starting at 360, okay, because remember, that's right here, 0.360. So we can only start right here. We can't go any lower with that Neve EQ. And then we can sweep all the way up to just above 7,000, which is right there. So this would be about the maximum range of that sweep. And then of course we can cut 20 dB, and same thing, sweep within this range. So that is a semi-parametric EQ. One of the most famous ones is this Neve 1073 emulation that Logic has done in Vintage Console EQ. And we'll take a look at other 1073 plugins a little bit later. But that is a semi-parametric EQ. You do not have all the parameters available, so there's no Q factor. You don't have the ability to adjust bandwidth. And in this case, you can only sweep from 360 to 7.2. So that is semi-parametric. Another famous semi-parametric EQ is the API 550. Now this is the API 550A EQ plugin, and this is emulating an actual API 500 series module. And you may be familiar with 500 series modules, and if you're not, definitely go check it out. But now these are similar to Eurorack if you're into Eurorack synthesizers, where there's a adopted format, 500 series, which is a specific size and shape that go into boxes, and you can have different modules that plug in. And API was very famous in creating these what are called lunch boxes that you could carry around, and now they make rack mount versions so that you can put little modules in there. And the 550A is a semi-parametric EQ, just like we looked at with the Neve. So this is a semi-parametric EQ, so it doesn't have all the parameters of a full parametric EQ. And just to take a quick look at this, what we have in this EQ is this little silver knob right here, which is boost up to 12 dB or cut 12 dB. This is the high frequency. So this little blue knob right here selects between 5 kilohertz, this little blue number, and it says right here kilohertz. So 5 kilohertz, it snaps to 7 kilohertz. So your choices are 5 kilohertz, 7 kilohertz, 10 kilohertz, 12.5, and 15 kilohertz, selectable. So you can't sweep like infinity any one of those frequencies. It's either 15K, 12.5, 10, 7K, or 5K, boost or cut. Now the next band down below that is the mid frequency. So again, boost or cut 12 dB or boost 12 dB, and then you have selectable frequencies in the mid frequency range from 0.4 kilohertz, which is 400 hertz, 800 hertz, 1.5K, 3K, and 5K. That's our mid frequency. And then in the low frequency, we again have boost or cut 12 dB, boost or cut, and then low frequency selection between 50 hertz, 100 hertz, 200 hertz, or 300 hertz. So this is another very great example of a famous emulation of an API analog semi-parametric EQ. So it gives you some of the parameters, but not all of them.